Would you believe me if I told you that the US government funded secret experiments to control people's minds using drugs, torture, and brainwashing? This isn't science fiction. It's real history. The project existed. It was called MKUltra, and its consequences still echo today. Get ready, because what you're about to hear in this video may completely change the way you see reality. Project MKUltra was one of the CIA's most secretive and controversial programs. For decades, it was treated as a conspiracy theory until classified documents were revealed and confirmed it all. The goal? To create mind control techniques, forced interrogation methods, and psychological manipulation. The problem? They used real people as test subjects. In this video, we're going to dive into the origins of the project, the disturbing methods used, and the consequences that still haunt victims and governments to this day. But be warned, some truths are hard to swallow. It all begins during one of the tensest periods in modern history, the Cold War. The fear that Soviet and Chinese forces were developing mind control techniques pushed the CIA to launch an ambitious and highly classified program. In 1953, Project MKUltra was born, approved by then CIA Director Allen Dulles and led by a man few have heard of, but whose actions left deep scars on American history, chemist Sidney Gottlieb. The mission was clear: explore the limits of the human mind, discover how to manipulate it, and use it as a weapon. To do that, dozens of institutions were mobilized: prestigious universities, psychiatric hospitals, and even prisons, all under layers of secrecy and disguised contracts. The most shocking part? Thousands of people were used in the experiments without ever knowing. Students who thought they were participating in academic research, psychiatric patients locked away against their will, even soldiers in training were unknowingly turned into human guinea pigs. LSD, synthetic drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and brainwashing were all part of the same twisted goal: to break the mind in order to reprogram it. What started as strategic paranoia quickly turned into an ethical nightmare, where human life was discarded in the pursuit of invisible power, the power to control thoughts. The techniques used in MKUltra didn't resemble science, they resembled torture, and in many cases they were exactly that. The scientists behind the project believed that to reprogram a mind, you first had to destroy it. One of the most commonly used methods was combining LSD with hypnosis, administered forcibly to unsuspecting patients. In many cases, these individuals were locked in isolated rooms, exposed for days to looped audio recordings while under the influence of powerful hallucinogens. Some were forced to hear the same phrase thousands of times over the course of weeks. Another frequent method was sensory deprivation. Victims were placed in dark tanks with no sound, no light, no human contact, until their minds began to unravel. In Canadian hospitals funded by the CIA, patients were subjected to intense electroshock sessions and drug-induced comas that lasted for days, all in the name of experimental treatments meant to cure mental illness. But perhaps the most notorious case was Frank Olson, a CIA scientist. Without his knowledge, he was dosed with LSD during a meeting with colleagues. Days later, he fell to his death from the 10th floor of a New York hotel. Officially, it was suicide, but later investigations suggest he may have been murdered to keep the project's horrors hidden. These techniques weren't aimed at healing or medical advancement. They were designed to establish absolute control over the mind, and the scars of that ambition still live on in those who survived. For nearly 2 decades, MKUltra operated in the shadows, hidden not only from the public but from many within the government itself. The documents were carefully stored in secret locations, the experiments labeled with vague names, and the participants silenced or discredited. But that wall of secrecy began to crumble in the 1970s, when a series of internal leaks and whistleblowers drew the attention of the media and the US Senate. In 1973, in a desperate attempt to cover up the scandal, then CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of most MKUltra records. Over 90% of the documents were incinerated. Still, around 20,000 pages survived, discovered by chance in a budget archive. These fragments, along with testimonies from former agents and victims, sparked a historic investigation, the Church Committee, formed by the Senate in 1975. That investigation finally brought MKUltra into public view. The nation was stunned to learn that its own government had conducted drug experiments, torture, and psychological manipulation on its own citizens. The hearings revealed a system where the ends justified any means, even the most inhumane. And while the CIA admitted to some of the actions, few were ever punished. Most victims never received proper compensation. MKUltra didn't just leave a trail of trauma and destruction. It left a haunting question: how many other secrets are still locked away, hidden behind classified doors? The scars left by MKUltra didn't fade when the project ended. On the contrary, they quietly spread over the decades. Hundreds of people who were subjected to the experiments carried deep trauma, psychological disorders, and irreversible loss. Some victims reported permanent amnesia, recurring hallucinations, hallucinations, panic attacks, and even the complete breakdown of their identities. In some cases, parents were separated from their children during testing, unaware of what was being done to them. And perhaps the most chilling detail, many never even knew they were part of the program. Beyond the individual victims, MKUltra's legacy influenced modern interrogation techniques used by global security agencies, including in Guantanamo Bay, where methods like sensory deprivation and disorientation became standard practice. Pop culture also absorbed these stories. Shows like Stranger Things, movies like The Bourne Identity, and even celebrity mind control conspiracies all reference MKUltra directly. The project became a dark symbol of what happens when power is left unchecked, when science is used not to heal, but to control. And despite formal apologies and document releases, the feeling of impunity still lingers. After all, if something like MKUltra really happened, what else could still be going on today under new names, protected by modern secrecy? At the peak of the investigation, a harsh truth emerged. MKUltra wasn't just a rogue operation or the result of a few unethical agents. It was a systematic project, funded, authorized, and executed by the highest levels of the U.S. government. The climax of this story isn't just in the drugged victims, the destroyed records, or the bizarre mental control techniques. It's in the realization that all of it was considered acceptable in the name of national security. MKUltra proved that when fear takes control, even democracies are willing to sacrifice their own people. And the most disturbing part? Even with most of the files destroyed, what remains is enough to prove the rabbit hole goes much deeper than anyone imagined. Many victims were silenced, others discredited, and some still don't even know they were manipulated. This raises an unsettling question. If the truth about MKUltra was uncovered only by chance, how many other secret projects are still buried in the shadows? The true impact of MKUltra goes far beyond its victims. It redraws the lines between government and morality, between science and torture, between safety and manipulation, and it leaves us with a chilling certainty. The line between reality and conspiracy is far thinner than we're led to believe. MKUltra isn't just a stain on America's past, it's a living warning. It shows how powerful institutions can push past every ethical limit when operating in the dark, using fear as justification and silence as their weapon. For nearly 20 years, ordinary men and women were manipulated, drugged, and destroyed in the name of a greater good that was never clearly defined. And when the truth finally came out, the answers weren't enough, the guilty weren't punished, and the victims were forgotten. More than a dark chapter in history, MKUltra is a mirror reflecting everything that could still be happening today, under new names, using new technologies, and even more sophisticated methods. The question now isn't, did this really happen? It's, what else is being hidden from us? If you made it this far, it's because you're ready to keep questioning, keep investigating, and uncover the truths most people would rather ignore. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to open their eyes, because the past might be far more present than we think, and understanding that is the first step to never being manipulated again.